This is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast. This is VP. We are a solutions-based podcast, diving into the world of contrarian investing and alternative finance. You can find us hosted on the No Nonsense Forex YouTube channel, NoNonsenseForex.com, and podcast players everywhere. Episode 210 is brought to us by Bybit, another great week for traders. There are many, many great weeks for traders, and this is something all of you should be doing. Almost everybody who listens to this show knows how to trade. And if you're trading Forex or metals or indices, well, two things really. One, you should be trading crypto. I think you would really, really like it. Two, it's not that difficult. Most traders are only trading Bitcoin and Ethereum from what I'm seeing on my end. And three, you can also trade Forex, metals, and indices on Bybit. Just do it all right there. Click the link down below. It takes you to the Bybit blog that I wrote. Shows you everything you need to know before you sign up. And if you like it, click that affiliate link at the very bottom and get a ton of benefits for life. Come join us. My traders already know that with Bybit, membership has its rewards. It is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast, and I would love to remind everybody that it is a great time to be a contrarian investor. It certainly still is. We had our big run. Things are leveling off a bit, but what's going on right now? We, as contrarian investors, have gone from laughed at to obscure to now completely validated in two of the main things we invest in here, two of the main things we focus on. Crypto is certainly one of them. I am old enough to remember all the times and all the people who were saying that this was a passing fad and Bitcoin is going to go to zero. And they couldn't really say anything negative about blockchain technology because most of the naysayers just simply didn't understand it. But even some of the top cryptos who have partnerships all across the globe were being called shitcoins. Now, what's interesting, though, is even though the entire sector has been validated, price-wise, only certain things have gone up, mainly Bitcoin, because this is the one everybody knows. Now, Bitcoin is very special for many reasons. I'm not saying its popularity or its exposure is the only thing that made it go up like that. Certainly not. But the entire sector has been validated now. There's very little you can really say against it. And the rest of the world, the plebes, not us, them, have finally figured this out. It took them much, much longer. That's why we got in before they did. And that's why our portfolios are where they are. But again, price-wise, there is still some great value in the altcoin sector because the price just kind of stayed there because people understand it less. If you're just getting into the crypto space and you have all this money and you have all this money for your clients, you're going to go with what you know and what you feel like is the most validated, and that's going to be Bitcoin, even though the entire sector has been validated. And what this does, and this was the whole reasoning and the whole purpose behind last week's episode 209, is to say, hey, look, the entire sector went up on its own validation. However, a lot of investments that should have gone up have not yet. And that gives us sweet divergence, and that's what we love. That's what we take advantage of, and this is exactly how people like us get in at these low prices. And then later on, people wonder how we did it. Well, this is how. Now, we also like to get in before the validation and absolutely be called crazy and other names. But if you are somebody who is a bit nervous about putting your money in sectors that have not taken off yet, well, you're going to love what's going on right now. One, from an altcoin perspective, because, again, I keep coming back to this word. We've already become validated. And I say this because it took us a long time to get here. Contrarians who've been with me from the start, you know. I'm sure in the past 5 years, you've had your doubts about whether the crypto sector was really going to become anything or whether Bitcoin was really going to get past a certain point. And those doubts are natural. But as I said in my earliest episodes, you have to have a very long-term approach. Find things which are inevitable, unavoidable, and put your money down on them before everybody else figures it out. Well, we're at that magical stage where they are figuring it out, yet there is still a lot of value left to be had. Altcoins are one of them. What is the other one right now? Maybe there's some I'm not seeing, but there's one I'm definitely seeing. It's junior gold and silver miners. Now, do not click off of this podcast. I know some of you are about to do that. You need to hear me out here because this is very important. This is some of the easiest money you're probably going to make if done correctly, and if the price of gold and silver continues to go up, which I think almost everybody here believes it is long term, right? This sector has been absolutely validated and will only get better and better if we go into a recession, which we are very, very overdue for, and which, this is a terrible argument, but it just feels like we're right on the doorstep of it, doesn't it? Never invest by feel, of course, but I do feel like it's up only long term for gold and silver, and I'll bet the majority of you feel the same way. Now, when it comes to gold mining stocks, and silver mining stocks, I want to be very specific here. If you're in the sector and you study it like you should, there are 3 major tiers and then sub-tiers within those major tiers. But the major tiers are producers, which is what it says. They actually produce gold and silver at scale. Then you have developers. These are companies that they have the gold in the ground. They have already drilled and proven this. They just haven't built the mine or decided if they're going to build a mine or they're going to get sold to somebody else. Now, you've heard me say before, I mentioned Don Durrett a lot because I like him and his service a lot. And he now has so much free material out there, you really don't even need the service. But one of the reasons why everybody stays away from this industry is because it's hard to learn and it's hard to keep up with. But there are people out there like Don who do all of this for you. Now, one of the things he said not long ago is you really don't need to go any lower than the producers because there's so much upside in companies that already actually produce gold and silver. And he was correct. Problem is, if you didn't jump on those, almost all of those companies have already gone up in price quite a bit. I have a lot of producers in my portfolio. They've all gone up. And if part of you is sitting back jealous that my portfolio has gone up the way it did, you literally had 5 fucking years to get your portfolio together and put producers in it. So I don't know what we're talking about here. However, you do get a second chance if you did not have any or if you feel like you just simply just didn't have enough. And now, don't get me wrong, I still think there's value in the producers, just less than there was a few months ago. But the old adage, and this is very true if you look at your history, is when people finally do enter the gold space, they start with the producers, and then that money trickles down into the juniors. Now, there are 2 levels of juniors. I left one out. There's developers, and then below developers, there are explorers. Companies who have not found any gold yet and are pretty much existing based on the money they're able to raise. I don't like this sector at all. I don't have any. I probably never will. Just like I don't have crypto coins in the 500s and 600s in terms of market cap. That's why I don't have any meme coins. Can they go up a lot? Sure. How often does it happen? Very, very seldom if you look at the totality of the space. But anyway, developers can. And there have been a handful of developers that have already done well. But there are many who have a lot of really great things going on and good management teams behind them that just haven't yet. And we are at a special time in our history right now where the all-in sustaining costs for a mine to make money and the actual price of the underlying metal are so far apart in such a great, great way that the entire industry can do a lot of things now. Mainly, the producers can come down to these developers and start buying them out. Now, some of the developers may not want to get bought out. They might want to build a mine. Okay, that's fine. And usually you'll see a bit of a price drop when this happens because building a mine is expensive and takes a while. But you also have situations where money just flows into this space anyway because people are looking for value because the producers have already gone up so much. And we're getting very close to that point. So the solutions part of this podcast and the playbook, at least from where I stand, looks like this. Number 1, get a good watch list of developers on your radar now. I told you, Don Durrett has free material on his YouTube. He just did a video on developers. It was actually a 2-part video. So there's lots of information right there. Jeff Clark is another guy. He has a free newsletter you can sign up for. He really gets into the junior space. He gets into explorers, but he also gets into developers as well. And he's been doing this a very long time at a very high level. So between those two guys and anybody else you can find on AI these days, it's a very simple search. You shouldn't have to ask me for anything else. You can curate a list. And then this is almost like crypto, like I said before, when it comes to your charts, you really don't have to wait for a signal for these developers. These are pretty low cap overall. You can just kind of put your money in it. Now, what I plan on doing is I've been taking profit on some of my producers. Now, where does that money go? Well, I have to ask myself, do I still believe heavily in this space? Yes, of course I do. More than I ever did before, because we've been validated. We know there is a very big future for gold and silver. So what I'm doing is, because developers at the end of the day, they are more risky, of course, I'm just taking the profits I've made so far from the producers and rolling them into developers and building out my gold and silver portfolio even more. Now, OGs who have been with me since the early days, or I've really even remember my old YouTube videos about this. A really good way to set this up, if you're interested, is to build your own soccer team, to where you have like the underlying asset is your goalkeeper. That's the sure thing right there, and then you have your producers in front of that, then your juniors ahead of that, and you just build your portfolio out this way. Now you might say, well, that seems like a lot of positions. Well, yeah, you don't have to have your whole team on the field, right away. You build it out over time, and then you can do what I'm doing. You take the profits you make from your big boys and roll them into your medium boys. Now, at some point, my team is going to really kind of stop there. I'm going to have an undermanned team, which is fine. But I will be able to fully maximize the upside from this gold and silver run and future gold and silver runs, which I believe are absolutely inevitable. The world is scrambling for safe havens, and this will not be the only time they want to do that. We all know what's going on in the world right now. And people, because of social media, and we can all talk to each other now, they're no longer in the dark about where to put their money and how to keep it safe. On the silver side, Jesus, dude, I have many episodes coming. I don't want to give them away, but we don't have anywhere near the amount of silver we are going to need for what we are attempting to do in this world. I will leave it at that. I can understand why the banks were tamping the price down for as long as they were. It made a bit of sense before. It all makes sense now. But even as hard as they tried, they still couldn't prevent silver from making a run up to where it is right now. And the real squeeze, the squeeze that everybody's talking about, the real squeeze hasn't even happened yet. So yes, I want on board with this. And if I can find quality companies on the high end and on the middle end, I will do the research needed, and when I say research, what I mean is have other people do it for me and spend an hour or two listening to what they say and then taking it from there. Your competition, or our competition here, when it comes down to it, does not want to put in minimal amounts of work to find deep value like this. And this is exactly why our portfolio is outperforming theirs. Because we realize that it's not really that much work. It's only a little bit, especially nowadays. Everything's just kind of easy mode now. But we are willing to do what they don't. We are willing to take chances that they won't. Because we realize there's certain sectors out there that are just flat out inevitable. And if we have to get in early and look a bit crazy for a while, we are willing to do that because we, at least everybody should now, understand the payoff at the end of that rainbow. So even though you might be waiting a little while, sometimes you're waiting a long time, sometimes you're not waiting that long at all. Sometimes it creeps right up, and you're glad you made the move. So don't screw around. But you want to be early here, because knowing what we know now, you'd be crazy not to.